Hey guys, we just want to welcome you out to our December session of how to become a probate expert. Bill is at the courthouse today, dealing with some probate issues. But look, we have another great friend of the show, who is Ashley Edwards, and of course, she's a certified probate real estate specialist. And she runs a pretty good organization and everything. We're just going to talk with her today, and just to kind of see what we can do, of course, to help our realtors out there to generate more business. So with that being said, Ashley, just introduce yourself and that type of thing, of course, to the audience.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wendell, for having me here. I'm so excited to be here this morning. My name is Ashley Edwards, and I am an associate real estate broker as well as a certified probate real estate specialist. My background, of course, is in real estate, and over the years, I've touched a lot of different areas in real estate. And what seemed to stick was this whole idea of estate and legacy planning. So essentially helping families not only navigate through the probate process, but more importantly, become educated on what estate planning is and what that means in terms of us protecting our wealth and being able to leave a legacy and passing on that generational wealth to our families. And so that's essentially what I do on a everyday basis. I've kind of merged these two ideas of putting yourself in a position to purchase a home and transition that to, okay, now I've purchased a home. What do I need to do to keep it? And what do I need to do to make sure that my family thrives should something happen to me? So that's my everyday focus is centered around those ideas now.
So let me ask you this, Ashley. Can you explain what probate real estate is and why it's important? Why it's an important part of estate planning?
Yeah, sure. So probate in and of itself is the legal process in which a deceased person's estate is settled through the courts. So when someone passes away, everything that they own, their houses, cars, stocks, bonds, jewelry, artwork, any investments that they had, or anything that they had that has a monetary value, those things have to go somewhere. And so probate is the process in which that's determined where these things gonna go, who's gonna get them, and how they're distributed. So in terms of real estate, what that means is if someone passes away and they own their home or they own other real estate property, that has to go somewhere too. Not always are it not the the situation. It isn't always that the ownership was, like the deed or the title was written a certain way where it automatically transfers to an heir. And because that's not always the case, and because we're not actively, planning our estate, um, there are cases where someone passes away, the family may or may not go through probate, and the family unfortunately could, lose the piece of property. And so that's what we want to avoid. But that's how those two worlds kind of come together. Probate and real estate is settling that estate of an individual that possibly owned one or several, pieces of property.
So let me ask you this: Why is real estate such a crucial element in building generational wealth? And how do you help families protect and manage these assets? This is just kind of a segue from what you just spoke about in regards to probate, and I.
Yeah, so it's very crucial because typically in many communities, the highest valued asset in that family is typically going to be the family home. And so with that being the case, if that's the highest valued asset that our family owns, then that's our ticket. That's our key to building financial stability and passing on generational wealth. So real estate is so important in the whole generational wealth conversation because if we're not protecting anything else, at minimum, we should be protecting our family home. and ensuring that should something happen to the owner or the breadwinner of that family, that the family can still remain stable emotionally, physically. They're not losing the family, they're not losing the loved one and losing the family house. That's very detrimental and can be very traumatic, on a family. And so that's where that whole idea of real estate tying into generational wealth planning, that's where it becomes so crucial, is creating a opportunity for your family to remain stable when we're considering the harsh reality of death.
Mhm. So of course, Ashley, as you know, me and you both, our goal is to go out and of course help as many families as possible when it comes to, of course, wealth building, and then of course protecting their assets. Now, with that being said, what opportunities exist within the probate process for realtors looking to expand their business? So can you expound on that a little bit, and what does AAA probate resources, how can probate AAA probate resources help of course realtors go out and build and expand their business?
Yeah, so I think, and this is a personal opinion, but what kind of got me into this work is situations that I saw that kind of opened my eyes. So prior to diving deep in this work, I was a traditional realtor. So I was working with families, helping them purchase or sell real estate, helping them invest in real estate. And I had a situation where I was working with this gentleman who, and this is when I first kind of entered into the probate space. I was introduced to this gentleman whose grandfather had did everything he was supposed to do in terms of preparing his estate and determining who was going to get the family home. And so when the grandfather passed away, this grandson, he did inherit the home. He owned it outright, but they never had the conversation as to what the grandson is actually supposed to do when the grandfather actually passed away. So when the grandfather passed away, the grandson, he doesn't know where the mortgage is. He doesn't know anything about paying the taxes, maintaining the home. He's just completely clueless to all of this. And so what that opened my eyes to is, and fast forward, he ends up losing the house. He lost his grandfather's home. But that opened my eyes to a whole world of people out here that just don't know. They just don't know. And I was convicted in that situation. After seeing that, I was convicted because at the time I had been licensed in real estate for several years. I had a broker license at this point, and I wasn't even aware myself as to everything that kind of goes on behind the scenes. And I just came to this realization that if this happened to him, it could happen to me. I have kids. I own real estate. If something happens to me tomorrow, these are going to be my kids in this same situation. And I was so convicted because I'm selling real estate. I'm putting people in houses, but if I'm not giving them what they need in order to keep the house, should something happen, then I felt like I was doing my clients a disservice. And so going back to your question about how this kind of correlates with realtors and in their business, again, the harsh reality of life is death. We all have a date that we're no longer going to be here. And it's not an exciting thing to talk about. It's not, one of those glorious conversations to have, but it's a necessary conversation to have. So as realtors, if we are out in the field and we're touching these people and working with these families on a day-to-day basis to help them acquire probably the biggest asset that they'll ever acquire in their lives, then what are we doing to help them keep that? And so that's where the whole idea of realtors kind of, learning this back end stuff that's going on behind the scenes as it pertains to your transactions. That's where that becomes so imperative for us to gain that knowledge and the expertise centered around what happens after transition or any other sort of incapacity.
And so I think you kind of it's like you just kind of read my mind, because you just had a question that I just thought about, which is, how does understanding probate real estate enhance a realtor's overall expertise and credibility?
Absolutely. So, one is kind of going back to what I just mentioned about, we're all going to leave here one day, and accepting that, that reality. Two is that probate it's a legal process. Probate does not happen unless someone has passed away, and probate does not happen outside of the courts. And so with those two things being the case, not knowing what is kind of happening behind the scenes can be a disservice, not only to your clients, but also for yourself, your own personal endeavors. And so knowing that every client that we work with, unfortunately, one day will transition, and being able to give them the tools and the resources that they need in order to prepare for that transition. And that doesn't mean, knowing all the nitty gritty, that goes into the legal process, or knowing everything that there is to know about probate, because I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know. Every situation is different. I don't know everything that, but being familiar with some of the processes, some of the systems, some of the laws that play a part into that transition of wealth, just being mindful of all of these things that are kind of happening in the background. My personal opinion is that's not necessarily, I don't want to say enough, but that's a start right there, is to just kind of familiarizing yourself of things that take place in the background as it pertains to death and incapacity.
And so let me ask you this: what advice would you give to realtors who feel hesitant about stepping into the probate niche?
Yeah, sure. So that was me. I kind of landed here. This wasn't a space that I necessarily sought after. And so I was very hesitant myself getting into it because of my lack of knowledge in probate in particular. And so the advice that I would give is, from a realtor perspective, I'm not sure if you've ever heard the saying, there's riches in the niches. So when you niche yourself and you focus on a particular area and you become an expert in that area, that's a golden ticket in and of itself. And so keeping that in mind, another thing to keep in mind is that we are constant learners. You have to be an everyday learner. So continuing to educate yourself about what probate is, what kind of goes into it, the process, definitely taking that serious. And then another thing that has helped me is always being open to networking and partnering. There's power in numbers. As cliche as that sounds, you can go so much further, with other people than you can go alone. So being open to connecting with other professionals. I say all the time, my background is in real estate, and I feel like I'm really, really good at what I do. But I can't tell you how to change a roof. I cannot sell you an insurance policy. I can't tell you how to file your taxes. I cannot tell you how to, there's so many other things that go into your everyday needs as it pertains to, your real estate endeavors, or your, just your financial picture overall. But I personally only play a piece of, I only contribute a piece of that. And so knowing that, I have to connect and collaborate with other professionals who are experts in what they do, and let them give you their expertise as it pertains to, your situation or your matter. And so those would be the things that I would advise is educating yourself, and partnering with other like-minded individuals that are willing to do the work.
Yeah. Actually, I really appreciate you coming on and joining us today and everything. So with that being said, can you let everyone know, how to find you on social media so that way they can, maybe get more information, and then if they want to use, AAA probate resources, hey, look, they'll know where to find you at.
Absolutely. So the company is AAA Probate Resources. You can find us online at AAAProbateResources.com. We are also on pretty much all social media, Instagram, Facebook, AAA Probate Resources. And then we also encourage people to give us their email, send us their email address, because we send out regularly, a few times a week, just different information and pointers around the whole estate and legacy planning arena. And so I would love to share any information that I can. I'm not a gatekeeper of information at all. As a matter of fact, when I learn something, I'm typically the one to run and try to tell somebody. And so if you're interested in being on that list and receiving that educational material, send us over your email address and we'll be happy to connect with you.
Cool. And so I know you talked about estate planning. Now I know you guys were doing like some estate planning, I would say, I guess networking, not so much networking, but estate planning informational sessions and that type of thing. So can you kind of, just talk about that a little bit as well, and when the next session may be?
Yeah, sure. So my whole, I guess, goal behind a lot of this is awareness and bringing the whole topic of death and incapacity and transition closer to the forefront. And so we do that by way of creative concepts. So making the topic, the conversation, a little bit more inviting, a little bit more relaxed, and unintimidating. And so we do that by way of these community events and functions. And so I'll name a few of the things that we've had, a few of the events that we've had in the past. We've had will writing parties where attendees are able to actually start drafting their will with an attorney if they choose. We've done what we call planning on the patio, where we partnered with a local restaurant that has an outdoor patio. This was over the summer. We did a summer brunch series, and we again had an estate planning attorney come in, and we talked through a hypothetical but real life situation, and then the attendees were able to answer questions around how you would typically respond in a situation like that. And then the estate planning attorney came in and kind of gave all the legalities around the situation. We have done, one of our newest concepts is called the Legacy Lounge, and that's a monthly gathering. And what we do is we come together every month. It's a different topic, and those topics are always centered around estate and legacy planning, how to leave a legacy. And so we interview industry professionals that are experts in their particular field. And then after the interview, the attendees are able to, we do a Q&A session. They're able to ask all their questions. And one thing that I want to add about all of our events, I'm a foodie. I love food. I love to eat. I do. And so every event or function that you come to of ours, you're going to eat good. And I don't want to say you will be entertained, but you're definitely going to feel comfortable. You're definitely going to feel invited. And you're going to feel encouraged and empowered to bring somebody with you the next time. And so I pride myself on that, because I feel like good food, it always brings people together. And when you throw in a topic like death, you got to find a way to make that lighter for people. And so we have a huge community focus. I'm very faith-based and service-driven. So however we can collaborate or partner with other like-minded individuals to kind of push this material and push these educational resources out to the community, we're definitely open to discussing and talking through that, and making this conversation more normal for us to have in our families and in our communities.
Yeah, that sounds good. Now, of course, I'm a foodie too, so I love to come out and eat, and I know at the last event, I know I was taking food away, like they did in church. You know what I mean? So
Yes, and we love that.
yeah.
We love to see it.
But look, Ashley, I really appreciate you coming on today and just dropping those nuggets out there. At the end of the day, again, our main goal, of course, is to one, help many people in the community and educate them, and then of course we also want to help fellow realtors build their business as well. So hopefully, and I know that this was a great session. And look, we look forward to seeing you again in the future. And look, you have a great, very Merry Christmas, and Merry Christmas to you all.